When Margaret turned 67, her friends told her it was time to love again. "You're still young." They said, "You shouldn't grow old alone." She wasn't convinced, but she tried. She met a man who was polite, present, and said all the right things. He opened the doors. He listened to her stories. He made her laugh at first, but after a few weeks, Margaret noticed her days no longer felt like her own. She skipped her morning walks because he liked to sleep in. She stopped playing music while cooking because he found it distracting. She started filtering her words, not out of fear, but to avoid ruining the mood. One afternoon, sitting in the living room, surrounded by shared silence that no longer felt peaceful, she whispered something to herself that stayed with her. "I miss being alone." It wasn't that he was unkind. It wasn't that the relationship was wrong, but it cost her something. She hadn't expected herself, and at this age, she realized the cost was too high. We live in a world that pushes people toward partnership, as if being alone is a sign of failure, something to fix or avoid. But what if that's not true? What if, after 65, the wisest, kindest, and most healing thing you can do is choose yourself? What if peace, not partnership, is what keeps your spirit alive? This video isn't about criticizing relationships. It's about honoring the strength it takes to say, "I'm good on my own." It's about breaking the quiet shame around being single later in life. And it's about understanding that solitude can be more than a space between relationships. It can be a destination today. We'll explore 9 honest reasons why staying single after 65 might not just be a valid choice. It might be the healthiest, most freeing decision you ever make. And reason number 9, it's the one almost no one says out loud, but it may be the one you've felt in your bones for years. Let's begin. Reason 1, peace is priceless. Now there's a kind of peace that doesn't arrive with fireworks or fanfare. It arrives quietly through still mornings, unhurried decisions, and the simple relief of not having to brace yourself emotionally. And the older you get, the more priceless that peace becomes when you were younger. Maybe you could brush off tension, bounce back from arguments, sleep soundly after an emotional day. But after 65, stress feels different. It lingers longer in your body. It shows up in your blood pressure, in your sleep, in your breath, emotional noise. Once something you learn to live with now, it feels like an intrusion you can no longer afford. Take Evelyn, for example. She was 72 when she opened herself up to dating again. She met someone through a book club, a man who was thoughtful, engaging, and full of stories. They got along, well, spent time at cafes, went to lectures and exchanged playlists. But soon, small moment, it started to feel heavy. He was sensitive to tone and often took offense to light teasing. He grew distant if she didn't respond quickly to his messages. She found herself overthinking her replies, rehearsing her words, monitoring his moods. Her sleep suffered. Her chest tightened. And one day, after canceling dinner plans just to have a quiet night to herself, she realized she had been more relaxed before he came into her life. The truth hit her, not like a storm, but like a soft breeze through an open window. She didn't miss companionship. She missed calm. She missed the way her days flowed gently, without tension. She missed waking up without walking on emotional eggshells. Peace, at this age, is not a luxury. It's a necessity. And choosing to remain single is not about isolation. It's about preservation. Preservation of health, of balance, of mental clarity. It's saying, I've weathered enough storms. I don't want to invite new ones into my home. You can still love people. You can still enjoy connection. But you also get to draw the line when someone else's presence costs you your serenity. That line isn't selfish. It's sacred because once you've experienced true peace, you understand no relationship is worth trading it away. Reason 2, you don't want to be a caregiver. Again, there's a silent truth many carry as they grow older. They're tired, not just physically, but emotionally tired from decades of giving, of caring others, of being the one who stays strong no matter what. And while love still matters, of course it does, the idea of taking on the role of caregiver again feels overwhelming. You've already done it. You've wiped tears, managed medications, cooked meals, sat beside hospital beds. You've been the anchor for everyone else. And now in this season of life, you want to rest. You want ease. You want your time to be your own. That's what happened to Roger. He met Denise through a local music group. She had a sparkle in her eye, a kind laugh. And they connected quickly. Within months, they were spending most days together. But then slowly her health began to decline. It started with fatigue, then joint pain, then appointments, so many appointments. Roger stepped up, of course he always had. He drove her, supported her, took care of things, but somewhere in the midst of helping her, he stopped doing the things that brought him joy. He skipped his weekly walks, he stopped painting, he stopped checking in with himself one afternoon as he sat in the clinic waiting room while she saw yet another specialist. He looked around at the other caregivers, each of them quiet, weary, and realized something painful. He hadn't meant to sign up for this again. He hadn't been ready. And this time, no one had asked, least of all himself. This isn't about blaming those we love. It's about acknowledging limits. Choosing to remain single after 65 doesn't mean refusing to care. It means recognizing that your capacity is no longer infinite. It's no longer your job to carry the emotional and physical weight of someone else's decline. You're allowed to want peace over duty. You're allowed to want freedom instead of obligation. You don't have to explain it. You've already given so much, now it's your turn to breathe. If this resonates with you, drop a number 2 in the comments. Let's see how many of us are finally ready to protect our time, our health, and our hearts. Reason 3, your freedom feels sacred. There's a freedom that comes with age that has nothing to do with rebellion. It's not about breaking rules or making bold statements. It's about something far gentler, far deeper. The ability to move through your day without needing permission. The freedom to wake up when your body says it's time to eat what you enjoy. When you enjoy it, to fill your calendar or leave it entirely empty. And as you get older, that kind of freedom becomes not just comforting. But Sacred Walter 73 had big plans for retirement. He wanted to take the train across the country, stopping in cities he'd always dreamed of visiting. He wanted to spend a month by the ocean. Painting he wanted days, with no clocks, no obligations, just the sound of his own rhythm guiding him. Then he met someone she was kind, grounded, preferred routines, and comfort. At first, it was lovely companionship, conversation, connection. But soon, Walter found himself putting his suitcase away, postponing plans, staying put. He told himself it was a compromise, but deep down, it felt like shrinking freedom at this age isn't about escape. It's about return. Returning to the version of yourself that existed before you had to make room for everyone else's preferences. It's about preserving the little joys, the kind that don't require negotiation, The freedom to leave the dishes for later, to read late into the night, to take a nap at 2 p.m. just because you can, to come and go without explaining why, and to know that every inch of your life is truly your own when you bring another person into that space. No matter how gently, there will be adjustments. That's not always bad, but it's not always welcome. You've earned this chapter. You've built it with decades of self-denial, patience, and care for others. Choosing to stay single now is not a statement against love. It's a statement of self-respect. It says, I'm no longer willing to hand over my time, my plans, or my peace unless it adds, not subtracts, from my life. Because after 65, freedom isn't just a gift. It's the reward for surviving everything that came before. Reason 4. Your home is finally your sanctuary. As the years go by, your home stops being just a place where you sleep or keep your belongings. It becomes an extension of you, a sacred space, a reflection of your peace. The chair by the window isn't just furniture. It's where you sip tea in the morning and listen to the birds. The hallway carries the rhythm of your days. The kitchen drawers, the scent in the bathroom, the placement of every lamp they hold. Meaning, not because they're expensive, but because they're familiar. They are yours. That's what Louise 70 came to understand after more than a decade of living alone. She met someone and decided to give love another chance. He moved in slowly. First his toothbrush, then a shelf in the fridge, then his shoes by the door. At first it felt warm, until it didn't. He liked the TV louder. He rearranged her spice rack. He preferred blinds open music in the morning clutter on the counters. He never meant harm. But Louise began to feel like a guest in her own home. She found herself asking before turning on the kettle. She stopped burning her favorite candle because he was sensitive to scents. One night, she stood in the hallway and realized something terrifying. This house no longer felt like hers. And with that, she understood. She hadn't just let someone in. She had given away the stillness that had taken her years to build when you're younger. You expect to compromise in relationships. You move in together, share space, adjust. But after 65, compromise starts to feel like sacrifice. You're no longer interested in adjusting your comfort for someone else's habits. You've arranged your environment to support your rhythm, your wellness, your peace. Staying single means preserving that sanctuary. It means waking when you want, eating when you please, sitting in silence without anyone asking, "Are you okay?" It means surrounding yourself with energy that's fully yours, gentle, predictable, healing, because at this stage your home isn't just where you live. It's where you remember who you are, and the right person, if they ever come along, will feel like peace. Walking through the door, not like rearranging your life. It just to make space. Reason 5. You refuse to settle out of fear. Fear doesn't always show up loudly. Sometimes it wears a polite smile and speaks in soft, logical tones. You're getting older. Don't be so picky. What if this is your last chance for many people? Past 65, these thoughts begin to creep in. Not because they're desperate, but because the world keeps telling them that solitude is something to escape, that it's a problem to fix, a gap to fill. And so they settle, not because their hearts leap, but because their hearts feel unsure. That's what Barbara 69 went through. She had lived alone for nearly a decade and had learned to enjoy it. She had routines, little joys, quiet confidence. But one day she panicked. Everyone around her seemed paired off. Holidays started to feel quieter. Invitations slowed. So When she met a man who was kind of consistent and available, she said yes, not because he moved her, but because he didn't scare her. He wasn't cruel. He wasn't dishonest. But he wasn't her person. He didn't understand her humor. He dismissed her stories. He made her feel safe, but never seen, and 6 months in, she realized something heartbreaking. She was lonelier in the relationship than she'd ever been. Outside of one, that's what fear can do. It can push you towards something that looks right on the surface, but feels hollow underneath. It can convince you that half warmness is better than no warmth at all, that comfort is the same as connection. But the truth is, settling doesn't quiet the fear. It just replaces it with regret. Choosing to stay single after 65 isn't about pride or stubbornness. It's about trust. Trusting that your time is too valuable, your energy too precious to give to someone who doesn't make you feel more alive. It's about honoring the fact that you don't need another person to complete you. You need people who respect the completeness you've already built, because the worst kind of loneliness isn't being alone. It's being with someone who makes you feel like your soul has nowhere to land. Reason. 6, you've outgrown the fairy tale. There was a time when you believed in the fairy tale. Maybe it was the movies, the stories, or just the way people talked about love as if it were the ultimate reward for being good, patient, kind. You believed that one day someone would come along and make everything feel complete. And maybe they did, or maybe they didn't. Either way, life has a way of showing you that love doesn't always look the way it does in stories. It doesn't always save you. Sometimes it asks you to save yourself. At a certain point, you stop chasing the illusion of a perfect ending. You stop measuring your life by whether someone is walking beside you. You start measuring it by how you feel when you're alone, when the house is quiet, the tea is warm, and the day is entirely yours. That's where Eleanor, 72, found herself. She had been married twice, raised a family, done the hard work of holding others together, and now sitting on her back porch with no one around, she felt something unexpected. Peace, not fireworks, not butterflies, just replaces it with regret. Choosing to stay single after 65 isn't about pride or stubbornness. It's about trust. Trusting that your time is too valuable, your energy too precious to give to someone who doesn't make you feel more alive. It's about honoring the fact that you don't need another person to complete you. You need people who respect the completeness you've already built. Because the worst kind of loneliness isn't being alone. It's being with someone who makes you feel like your soul has nowhere to land. Reason 6, you've outgrown the fairy tale. There was a time when you believed in the fairy tale. Maybe it was the movies, the stories, or just the way people talked about love, as if it were the ultimate reward for being good, patient, kind. You believe that one day someone would come along and make everything feel complete. And maybe they did. Or maybe they didn't. Either way, life has a way of showing you that love doesn't always look the way it does in stories. It doesn't always save you. Sometimes it asks you to save yourself. At a certain point, you stop chasing the illusion of a perfect ending. You stop measuring your life by whether someone is walking beside you. You start measuring it by how you feel when you're alone. When the house is quiet, the tea is warm, and the day is entirely yours. That's where Eleanor, 72, found herself. She had been married twice, raised a family, done the hard work of holding others together, and now sitting on her back porch with no one around. She felt something unexpected. Peace. Not fireworks, not butterflies. Just peace. And for the first time in her life, she didn't crave more. You don't need to be rescued. You don't need someone to finish your sentences. You've finished. Enough of your own staying single after 65 isn't about rejecting love. It's about letting go of the myth that love only counts if it looks like a movie. Your story matters, even if no one else is reading it with you. And if someone does come along, let it be someone who adds to the calm, not someone who disturbs it in the name of romance, reason. 7. You're prioritizing joy over obligation for most of your life. You did what was expected. You showed up. You gave. You stayed. You made the phone calls, hosted the dinners, tolerated the awkward silences and the heavy conversations, not because you always wanted to, but because you felt like you had to. Obligation was stitched into your daily routine. Joy, if it came, was a pleasant surprise, but never the priority. But now something has shifted. You no longer want to perform. You don't want to say yes out of guilt or show up because it's polite. You want to laugh for real. This isn't a rejection of love, it's a redefinition of it. Love can still come. It can still surprise you, but if it does, it should feel like peace. Never pressure. It should fit into your life, not rearrange it. And if it never comes again, that's okay too, because what you've created for yourself now, this freedom, this clarity, this joy, it's not a placeholder. It's a home. If this video brought you comfort, clarity, or the courage to honor your own voice, please consider clicking the like button. And if you know anyone who might need to hear this message today, share it with them. We're building a space here where solitude is sacred and truth is welcome. And if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe. We create videos like this every week for those who are growing older. With intention, honesty, and heart, leave a comment below. And let me know which reason spoke to you most. Or just type peace if you found more of it lately. Until next time, may your mornings be quiet, your spirit be strong, and your life remain fully beautifully yours.